Hello, thank you for attending this webinar. My name is Jessica Shull. I'm the European lead for the Digital Therapeutics Alliance. I'm based here in Barcelona, and I work on digital projects for respiratory health at Bellvitge Hospital. And I'm hoping to offer to the audience today some information on what digital therapeutics are and how they can offer patient care for overburdened health systems. And this is applicable, obviously, now in the light of this pandemic that we're all living through, but also in the future. Digital therapeutics offer therapies to patients remotely. And this is not just consultations, these are actual therapies. So I will now go into what that means. So, what is a digital therapeutic? These are software programs, highly detailed, designed, clinically proven, evidence-based, which deliver therapeutic interventions to patients. So they can prevent, manage, or treat a medical disorder or disease. And they can be used with a drug, with other devices, and indeed other therapies. So on our website, you can see down at the bottom there's a link to see more about the definition. And we want to ensure that it's understood. These are not typical health apps that you see, 300,000 of them on the the iTunes store or on Google Play. There are only probably 200 or so in the world right now. The number is growing, but these are not easy products to develop. They take years because a clinical trial is involved. So they're very highly specialized. You can see here that this is the digital health ecosystem. So we're trying to explain that with these little honeycombs, that digital therapeutics in the sort of upper center there is one piece of this larger ecosystem. So digital health includes devices and sensors and wearables, your Fitbits and so forth, personalized healthcare with clinical decision support. In the bottom right, you can see telehealth, which is for remote patient monitoring and telemedicine consultations, that kind of thing. On the far left is mobile health. So this is consumer health information, medical adherence apps, but none of these purple or pink honeycombs is a therapy. Like none of these other groups of digital health products actually have a direct impact on the patient's condition. So the digital therapeutics box there is specifically about an intervention that affects directly the endpoints of a certain disease. And I'll go into more of this, but there's a medical claim and the evidence generated to back up that claim. So this is a graphic we designed with Health Excel and Node Health and the Digital Medicine Society in Washington, D.C. to differentiate a bit. The outer ring you can see is digital health, everything included. And there may or may not be clinical evidence around what a digital health in general product does. So this could mean just an interoperable EHR medical record system. In digital medicine, clinical evidence is required. And then the more central and more rigorously defined section, digital therapeutics, requires clinical evidence and real world outcomes because products are in the patient's hand and they will actually interact with the therapy on a day-to-day basis and ongoing. So 2 years after they receive the digital therapeutic, they can still be generating results. And these are the digital health product types. So more specifically, again, it's the three categories, one more specific than the other. And on the right-hand side, you can see digital therapeutics, more precisely what the medical claims include, and on our website, you can download this document actually to differentiate more thoroughly the two-page document. So you can see where digital health and digital therapeutics differ. These are the core principles that we, the Digital Therapeutics Alliance, request that all of our members adhere to. So the idea is to ensure that you're actually preventing, managing, or treating a medical disorder or disease, produce this intervention via software, incorporate design best practices, and so forth. So each of these 10 core principles is actually tied to a best practice. So you can read those at your leisure if you want to pause the PowerPoint. And this is a document you can also find on our website. The link is in the lower right. You can download it, because each of these core principles, the first and the second one, are listed on the left. Each one is associated with a best practice. So for the principle of preventing, managing, or treating a medical disease, medical disorder or disease, there is a series of items to ensure that that you're complying with. And same for producing a medical intervention driven by software. So the appropriateness must be validated, the data provenance must be defined, the product must be interoperable with all applicable hardware according to certain ISO and IEEE standards. And as you go through the principles, the best practices are very specific. So these are not typical, apps that someone designed in their basement. They are very highly tested and rigorously scrutinized, and they do go through a regulatory phase. To emphasize that digital therapeutics are safe and effective and actually can treat disease, which seems unbelievable to many people, including physicians, it should be understood that digital therapeutics in Europe are regulated as medical devices. So they make a medical claim. This claim must be backed up, and they must submit for a CE mark as a medical device through qualified notified bodies in Europe. So at the moment, the MDR is the document written by the European Commission, which provides the guidelines for how the notified bodies work. And this new medical device regulation goes into full effect in May of this year. So it's a very hefty document with very precise and difficult standards to meet. So it's not something that is easy for digital therapeutic companies to do. And we do expect that nearly every company will provide a randomized clinical trial as evidence. So it depends on the classification, of course, to what extent those trials go. But there are digital therapeutics that are class 1, class 2A, 2B, and maybe in the future also class 3, just depending. The MDR evaluates the medical device for safety, clinical efficacy, and post-market follow-up. So years after being released on the market, there's also scrutiny. So these DTX products, ones that have been CE marked, there are many already in use in France, Germany, Belgium, and the UK. The Netherlands is slowly uptaking, but it's not at a national level. This is by hospital. So these pathways do exist, and there is recognition by NICE in the UK, by BfArM in Germany, by HAS in France, and so forth. These products are being used, and they are providing treatment for patients. So in addition to national systems, DTX products are also used by patients through private healthcare insurance and out of pocket. So the benefits in terms of logistics for DTX, this is, again, it's with or without our current COVID-19 crisis, because even before the crisis, many healthcare systems were sort of struggling with the amount of patients that need care, and wait lists were very long. And there is a tried and true way to reduce those wait lists and treat patients without there having to be a visit. However, of course, it needs to be incorporated into the system in a way where physicians are still reimbursed for their time, nurse practitioners, whoever is involved in the training and the use of the product, there needs to be a system in place to provide incentives. So the logistic benefits are, of course, the remote access. So patients receive clinically demonstrated therapies, which are effective. And they perceive these in their home or wherever they may be. And it's independent of anyone's schedule. It can be any time of day, they use it at their leisure. And it's also quite personalized. I, for instance, have used a digital therapeutic for lower back pain. And if I want to, in the early morning, do the exercises and the therapy dictated for me, I do it in the morning, or it can be after lunch. It's completely flexible. But the data is aggregated, and in the fourth bullet point, you'll see real world insights and enables intelligent data-driven care. These are gathered whenever the DTX is used. So obviously there's a device involved. Most DTX products are scalable and accessible through the patient's own device. So this can be a smartphone or a tablet. In some cases, there's a code that the patient needs to be given by a physician, and then they can download the DTX, insert the code, and then the physician and the patient both have access to the data being generated. One other logistic benefit is that many DTX have the potential to measure the use of medications and consumables. So for instance, if a patient with diabetes needs those little glucose test strips, oftentimes the DTX can ping and say, oh, some should be delivered, and it can be delivered via Amazon or what have you. This is automatic. So you can avoid running out and avoid having to go to the store or to the pharmacy. I now have 2 slides on the health benefits of DTX, and it's good to take these into consideration at your leisure. And the blue text is actually linked to the trial or the website where this information can be read in more detail. So this initial product here is Silver Cloud, and they have many actually DTX products. This one is about depression and anxiety, and that there have been marked improvements using traditional endpoints. So the randomized clinical trials use traditional endpoints to demonstrate that there were improvements in the patient's depression or anxiety. And this is up to, states here, up to 12 months after start of the treatment. Big Health is another DTX company, and their product Sleepio demonstrated in 12 or more studies that 76% of users achieved healthy sleep. And this is important now during coronavirus. It's also important in general for health, because it's obvious when patients are sleeping and recovering, the other treatments they may be undergoing are more effective. So part 2 of the health benefits is a couple more examples. Dario Health, which is an interactive that digital therapy a patient has in their hand. It not only lets the patient know how they're behaving, but it precisely alters the way that they interact with insulin and food and carbohydrates and everything involved, so that the hypoglycemic events are actually reduced by 50%, and hyperglycemic events reduced by 40%. And that's a huge change. And we're talking about, this is insulin or metformin with a DTX, as opposed to the standard of care, so insulin and metformin without a DTX. And it was over a 2-year period, so it's quite impressive. Kaya Health is a DTX from Germany that is for chronic pain, and their users showed a 43% pain level decrease. So this is fantastic for patients who can't come for physiotherapy. Like right now, patients need an alternative. So these products are definitely an option. For the health economic benefits, just to say that every country has their price for hospitalizations and for certain protocols of care. It was demonstrated with Propeller Health for asthma that reduction of emergency department and related hospitalizations was by 50%. So that's a huge number, which saves the hospital enormous costs. For COPD, it's a different product. There was a 35% improvement in symptom-free days. So this was a Cleveland Clinic study that showed it could reduce, the DTX could reduce annual hospitalizations from 3.9 to 2.3 visits. We didn't put cash figures in here because obviously Cleveland Clinic has a different pricing than Bellvitge or from Hospital Clinic or any other hospital in Spain, but those are significant numbers. So the last point is that even though these products are tried and true and they're being used, right now DTX in Europe is financed for certain populations in the UK and France. In the UK, Sleepio and Silvercloud are both being financed. In France, Voluntis has a few products for diabetes being financed, as does Lucine. DTX products are soon going to be nationally reimbursed in Germany. They will be reviewed by BfArM and prescribed by general practitioners. So Belgium also has a 3-tier system for evaluation and adoption of DTX products and other digital health products. But these countries are moving forward. Right now, there is no national reimbursement plan or financing for DTX in Spain. But perhaps guidelines are needed and examples of who can use these products and why and the benefits. So we're happy to provide that information. Our website has a wealth of documents and examples. And of course, here's my email for any questions that viewers may have. And we hope to interact with you very soon. So thank you for your time.